scouting the third element of the Rec League, the C of the Rec League. That would be Chris Martin. He is traveling this week and unable to join us, so we're going to do a little two-man weave here. We're going to make it work, and hey, listen, just more time for me to talk, Russ.
That's what's so important. We need that expertise.
Chris is traveling. That's the excuse. I actually wanted just a little...
Eric's way of getting more airtime.
Yes, exactly. So, well, let's get right into it. We've got 5 topics we want to get to this week as part of the podcast. That's our regular format. First one, we get to the Oakland Raiders bye week. How about a little Cowboys-Raiders Super Bowl? Not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's fair to say that, even though the Raiders were seen as one of those up-and-coming teams, even though the Cowboys had kind of a fluky season last year, look, we're at the point where we could see this happening. I mean, what are your thoughts? Obviously, just in terms of the way they've played, of the potential of that kind of matchup, what it would mean for the league, and just what you've seen from those clubs this season.
Firstly, I think the Raiders, they've got to be in consideration, because just look at Denver last year. They won with a quarterback who wasn't great, an okay offensive line, but they had great defensive players. Yep. Well, I look at Oakland. Carr's better now than Manning was a year ago in terms of playing at a high level, because Manning was no longer the player he once was. The Raiders' offensive line is really gelled. They did a great job with some of those free agent signings, mixed in with some of the guys they've drafted. That's a good unit. They have obviously an elite weapon in Amari Cooper, and they may have one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players in the whole league in Khalil Mack on defense, and it upgrades the whole defense, the way he plays, and forces offenses to adjust. So yeah, I think they're in the running. The problem is Denver's still a very good team. New England is an elite team. Whereas I jump on the other side and I look at the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think Dak Prescott is playing as well as some of the premier quarterbacks, but he's playing awfully good football. They have a great offensive line, an excellent running game. To me, an average defense, but I look around the rest of the NFC and I'm not sure there's any one team I would say is clearly better than them. So I think they have to be in the mix. So that, to me, Raiders may be a better team. I think Cowboys have a better chance going to Super Bowl.
That's a great point. And the Raiders have to get through probably the toughest division in football. We know the Broncos are battle-tested. Even though they lost to the Raiders, they're going to be in it. The Kansas City Chiefs, people are sleeping on them.
Yep.
They're a good football team. They won with a backup quarterback last week.
And Justin Houston comes back this week, so.
Back this week, even with, they won last year without Jamal Charles. So
yep.
They're still, Chargers probably the best last place team in the NFL, so that is going to be a tough division to win. Earlier you mentioned the offensive lines, and I think, again, so much football until we get to this point. If they did meet in the Super Bowl, one of the storylines would be, hey, look, bad offensive line play is everywhere in the NFL, but not with these 2 teams. Cowboys, maybe the best. Raiders, certainly top 5, if not number 2 or 3 in the league. What have you seen from the Raiders' offensive line? Do they even match up, pound for pound for what the Cowboys put out there?
I don't know if they're truly as good as the Cowboys in every area, but I think what you get is a very physical and aggressive unit, which is what I think Reggie McKenzie wanted. I think he looks back to his time at Green Bay, and Green Bay was at its best when they had some nasty guys. Maybe they didn't have as great athletes, but they had elite guys in terms of competes and getting after guys. And when you look at the Raiders, that's what they have. Osemele, the free agent they signed, he's a tough, competitive guy. You look over at the guard Gabe Jackson, the kid they took in the mid-round. This is a nasty, physical player to Mississippi State. That's what they want. Their mantra is going out and kicking teams' butts. I love it. Are they as good as Dallas? No, but they're awfully good, and I think they're going to keep getting better because, remember, they're new in terms of being together this year. Dallas's guys have been together basically for 3 years, so I think the Raiders are going to keep getting better on offense. I think they're going to be tough to beat come the playoffs because that line is so good. They're going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to be able to protect Carr on those quick-hitting short passes.
Topic number 2 here as we move along to Seahawks and Bills, the game from Monday night, an entertaining game. It was probably the best primetime game we've had, or one of the best this season, but it was marred by controversy. So I just at least want to touch on what you saw there at the end of the half. Let me see if I can work my way through it. Bills are lining up for a 53-yard field goal with about 3 seconds left. Richard Sherman jumps off sides, hits the ball, call for offsides, but also takes out Carpenter, the kicker. Gets him with what Dean Blandino said should have been an unnecessary roughness call. Then Carpenter gets up, or he's down, then he gets up, ruled he must come off the field because he's an injured player. Then the Bills are out of timeouts. They've got to be charged that quote-unquote, that fourth timeout. And Carpenter has to come out, so they have to sit there and spike the ball. Smart play by the Bills, by the way. And then the referees don't give them enough time on the play clock. So we had this litany of errors that ended up resulting in a missed field goal. Look, don't tell me it didn't matter. It might have affected play calls down the road, etc. I know they lost by 6, but that little sequence kind of sums up what a lot of people are kind of fed up with about the NFL.
Oh, there's no question. I think it points to two things. Firstly, I think it points to questionable officiating in terms of being on top of things, making the correct decisions, the chain of command. Shouldn't there always be a guy at the league office that they're in touch with that can stop things and say, hey, we can't have a royal screw-up like this on a national game? But I think also it points to the fact, and a lot of people talk about it all the time, when Tom Brady gets hit, even the slightest bit in the head, there's a penalty. When Cam Newton or Big Ben gets it, they don't. Well, here's an example of a guy, Richard Sherman, well-liked guy in the league, a good, well-spoken kid, not a guy who's a thug on the field, maybe gets away with a little bit because the referees sort of have a little bit of a, hey, he's a good guy. We know he's not out there intentionally trying to hurt guys. Maybe they let that get in their head, and that's why they don't call that penalty. They clearly should have. And obviously, I think it had a huge effect on the game because I think it not only doesn't give you the chance at that 3 points, but I think the Bills go into the locker room thinking, what is going on? What are the officials trying to do here? And they come out and they're constantly playing catch-up. Those 3 points would have been vital because on that final drive, they're all the way down there. And all they would have had to do, and obviously other things may have changed, but if nothing else drastically changes, they're at least in a position to kick a game-tying field goal. So to me, I think it was a terrible job by the refs. And once again, I think Sean Payton nailed it a few weeks ago when he said, we need full-time referees. If we're spending billions of dollars a year on this league, let's get some full-time referees. We have a whole league office full of full-time people who pretty much don't contribute to the product on the field. Why not get the referees, who are way more important than pretty much everybody in the league office, and get them trained? Not that they're not working hard, but get them full-time. Then the product gets better, and maybe they can save their dying ratings.
Yeah, and look, every year the competition committee tweaks the rules, rewrites the rules, adjusts the rules, add rules, take rules away. I feel like their existence is dependent on these rules being changed every year. Tweaking this is reviewable. That to me is also an issue too. These guys have a lot of things to think about, and as it related to last night, I mean, look, we had 2 potential calls: the offsides and the unnecessary roughness on the Sherman play. Then you had the unawareness of what was going on with the play clock in terms of setting the ball. There was a lot going on. Then you had Sherman and Ryan jawing at each other in the third quarter. It did feel like it was a little bit out of control. And as you mentioned, I mean, look, you never know what's going to affect future calls, but they're down 6 and have a third 20, not quite in field goal range. They call a handoff, he gets stuffed for a loss. Now they got the ball back, but if you think you have a potential game-tying field goal as opposed to cutting a 6-point lead to 3 points,
Yep.
you're probably throwing the football 8 or 10 yards to try to get that back. So
Yep.
look, it's done. The Bills have a little bit of an easier schedule, but they've lost 3 straight, and I don't know. Can they get back in this race now after losing the Dolphins, losing the Patriots, and now losing a tough one before the bye to the Seahawks?
And the one other thing I think you got to mention is you did a great job. You mentioned the competition committee. How unfair is it for them to change all these rules and then expect referees who do this as a second job, most of them, to incorporate all these new changes? It's like, hold on. At least make these guys full-time so each week they can focus on, hey, what were the mistakes we made? And they can literally spend 2 or 3 hours every day as a group discussing it rather than getting together on Friday when you get to the city and trying to remember, hey, don't forget you screwed up this and screwed up that, and rush out on the field on Sunday.
All right, speaking of mistakes, topic number 3, the Cleveland Browns. We're not trying to pile on here, but it is, bordering on history now. They haven't won since December 13th, 2015, and they may not win again. They've got a game Thursday Thursday night at the Baltimore Ravens, which, Russ, if you look at the schedule, might be one of the more winnable games. And right now, the Ravens are the 4th seed in the AFC, and they're playing at home in a Thursday game. So that kind of underscores how tough the Browns' schedule is down the stretch and how bad they've been defensively, how many quarterback injuries they've had. So first of all, 0-16, is it happening? Or are they going to find a win? San Diego, Pittsburgh, if they have to sit guys in Week 17, is there a win on this schedule?
You know, I think they're going to find a way to get one for 2 reasons. Firstly, I just think the players seem to really compete. Even though they know their season is over in terms of making the playoffs, they are not laying down. Every game they're coming out and fighting. And also, look, you mentioned Pittsburgh, you mentioned San Diego. Those are 2 teams that could be on the outside looking into the playoffs with no chance of being in the playoffs those final 2 weeks. So you wonder how much motivation are they going to have, or are they going to come out there and sort of lay an egg? But I think Baltimore this week, and I'll take another team, the Giants. To me, they're a team that's Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week they look great. Then you look at what they did in London. They pretty much were just average the whole game and only won because the Rams were so atrocious. So, yeah, I think if the Browns even play a modicum of competitive football, they could compete with the Giants because I just don't think they're a well-rounded team. So I don't think 0-16 is going to happen, but that is not a good football team. And just a point to remember, last time they made the playoffs, I was scouting for them.
My gosh, I got to get my calendar out because I can't even remember when the heck that was.
That's right.
Obviously, defensively, they have issues galore. They make this crazy trade for Jamie Collins. That was a big shock last week. We couldn't have the show last week. They had some scheduling issues, but they've been outscored by 109 points. And, Collins comes in. A few days later, he's placed every snap in the loss to the Cowboys. Quick thoughts on Collins, and then we'll get to kind of long-term plans in the draft next year.
Well, if as an organization they feel Collins is a player that can be a quality starter for them for a long time, then I understand giving up a 3rd-round pick. But to me, the issue is you get him in, you're throwing him to the Wolves. And one of his issues to me when I watched the Patriots was making mistakes because he was misreading plays, lining up in the wrong spot at times. Well, you're not going to help his confidence get over that by forcing him into the lineup so fast. And I understand they want to get him out there quick because they want to decide if they want to invest the money at the end of the season and try to re-sign him. But, geez, I don't know. To me, line this kid up as a pass rusher for the first, maybe give him 20 snaps a game for the first game or 2. Let him get adjusted, learn the defense. But, hey, they're desperate. They don't have bodies. That's their problem. They don't have guys who can make plays. I think they're just looking at it like, hey, Collins has talent. Let's roll him out there, and maybe he can help us make a big play.
Quick thought on 2017. We're going to have the next 6 months to debate this unless they settle it early. But as the draft kind of takes shape now, we're starting to figure out who the top guys might be, etc. In my mind, Myles Garrett, Jonathan Allen, a couple other guys are the best pure football players in this draft. Now, last year, I thought Jalen Ramsey and Ezekiel Elliott and a couple others were the same thing. But as we saw, 2 quarterbacks went first picks. Could you see that kind of same thing happening if, let's say, the Niners finish, 1-15 or 2-14, and the Browns get the number 1 pick? Because of need and because of the positional value, could we see a quarterback like Deshaun Kaiser or Deshaun Watson or Mitch Trubisky go way higher than we may have expected?
Anything's possible. But I will say the fact that the Browns liked Cody Kessler so much tells me that they probably aren't going to be your standard team in terms of evaluating quarterbacks. I don't think they're going to put as much emphasis on size and arm strength. I think they want those kids who interview well, who are really smart, who have great mechanics, and who are very accurate. So because of that, I don't know if a guy like a Kaiser or a Watson or even Trubinsky, if any of them would even qualify in their scouting system to be a first-round pick. I think they might be a team that in that 2nd or 3rd round takes aim at sort of a quarterback that maybe isn't getting all that hype, and maybe that's where they take a gamble in the 3rd round on a guy like Chad Kelly. Because I just don't think they're going to use a first pick. You have a guy like Myles Garrett. You have a guy like Tim Williams, the kid from Alabama, the terror off the edge, and maybe even Cam Robinson. Because there's all this talk every year, is Joe Thomas going to get traded? Well, you bring in Cam Robinson, now you have another elite young lineman, put him in there, and maybe you give Kessler a chance in the pocket. So I don't think it'll be a quarterback at 1 or 2 if the Browns are there, because I just don't see a guy that fits what they're looking for.
Yeah, and you've got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and even with They want to trade up later or do something else. They've got the ammo. All right, let's move on to topic number 4. What's going on in the NFC North? We are both located in Chicago, and the Bears are 2-1 in a division that has been turned upside down. Now, I realize the Bears are a last-place team. Let's put them to the side, but Vikings lose Sunday. Packers lose Sunday. Both games at home, both to opponents we sort of maybe underestimated a little bit. Now the Lions are kind of lurking half a game back. We'll get to some of the coaching stuff in a minute. Just in terms of the race and the way the teams stack up, how do you handicap this division?
You know, I mean, I still think Minnesota's going to end up being the team to beat. I think they played better this past week when they lost to Detroit. I thought they actually outplayed Detroit. They just made too many mistakes. I think as the season goes on, Jeremiah Searles, who's starting at guard now, I think he will end up starting at either guard or tackle the rest of the season. And the more he's in the lineup, that line will get more cohesive. I think they will get better on offense. I think they're going to win the division, but they're not going to win it going away like I thought a while ago. I think Detroit's going to finish second. That may be the best coaching job of any team in that conference because, wow, are they doing it with mirrors. They have, on defense, I don't see any pass rushers. Ziggy Ansah has been almost a non-impact guy this year, and they're still finding a way to do it. They're keeping the score close. I've been very impressed with their ability, to, sort of like Bill Belichick's Patriots he got there early on. They won a lot of games that they were outplayed in because they were playing smart football. They weren't turning the ball over, and that's what I see in Detroit. I think they're going to end up missing the playoffs, but finishing second and a good second place in that division. And Green Bay, I think they could be on the bad side of going off that cliff.
If Green Bay, as you say, could finish third, Mike McCarthy's done. I'm sorry. That's the way it's going to be. I don't care if they're 9-7. I don't care if they're 8-8. If they're a promising 10-6, whatever it is. I mean, at this point, I kind of hesitated Sunday. I wrote that big changes could be coming if it continues down this track. You hear Rodgers talk about the lack of juice on the sideline. You watch the design of their offense, isolation routes. You know, none of the creative crossing routes and rub routes and stuff that other teams use. To me, it's like a 2003 offense. And if you've got a healthy Jordy Nelson, a fully healthy Randall Cobb, you can get away with that, Eddie Lacy, etc. I mean, if you have elite skill guys at full health, sure. That's what you saw early in 2014. They looked unbeatable. But Russ, you have a guy seeming to jam his system down their throats when they don't have a run game, when they don't have help at wide receiver, when their tight ends aren't good. I mean, I guess just explain to me what you think about the scheme, and is McCarthy now maybe swimming upstream a little bit?
You know, I think it's part scheme, but I also got to put some of the blame on the front office because when I look at that offensive line, it is a bad offensive line. I mean, they get pushed around at the point of attack. They struggle to open holes for their running backs. I just don't see a team that has those horses up front. Like we talked about the Raiders and Cowboys. I don't think anybody's going to tell me those two teams have more talent than the Packers in terms of catching the ball, running it, whatever. But that offensive line is brutal. And Eddie Lacy, people can say all they want about this offseason he got in shape. All I know is opening game this year, he looked about 265. So I really question whether he really either lost the weight or if he lost it and gained it all back because he did not look trim at all to me when this season began. And also, what about defensively? They're wildly inconsistent. I don't know. I think some of it's coaching, but I really think some of it's got to go on the personnel.
I'll say this. Clay Matthews being out the last 2 games has really hurt.
Huge.
You know, the depth in the secondary has been just ravaged by injury. A couple of mitigating factors, but you're right. And when you hear about the rumors of maybe Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy, McCarthy not being crazy about the Nile Davis trade, McCarthy not being crazy about Joe Callahan being cut, little things here and there. It took them a long time to get McCarthy's extension done a couple years ago. So, yeah, I kind of wonder about that. Obviously, Mike McCarthy, I think, would be scooped up by somebody else.
Oh, no question.
But
you never know.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to topic number 5. We kind of like to, I know we talked a little draft earlier, like to sort of sum up a little bit of draft talk, some college football talk. Russ, keep an eye on the big picture here a lot. You know the nitty-gritty here. A couple of big quarterbacks, actually 3 big quarterback injuries. 2 guys a lot of people know. Trevor Knight from A&M and also Chad Kelly from Ole Miss going down for the season. I'll throw one more in there. Brent Stockstill, a kid that's impressed me.
Good quarterback.
Yeah, what I've seen from a middle to a freshman and turn to somebody who hasn't, been played a lot rather. I mean, I think Nick Starkel could have his red shirt pulled. They could go with Jake Hubenak, who took over for Knight. So, I don't know. Which team do you think is best equipped to handle? Obviously, a lot more at stake for A&M.
Hubenak is an interesting kid. I think he's an efficient guy. I think he's going to avoid the mistakes, replacing Knight. Here's my concern, though, if I'm Knight. I look at it and I say, okay, I'm not a big quarterback. I got hurt. Am I going to rush back to try to get it back for a bowl game when I could re-injure? To me, I think they're better off saying, you know what, we're going to go with our backup. He's going to be a guy. We're going to ride that horse. And they're not a great team. And to me also, let's remember, Knight is not a superstar. He's a good quarterback, but he's not like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady. He's not a special guy. He's a good quarterback. He's a marginal, middle-of-the-road NFL prospect to me. So I don't think they're getting hit as hard. To me, Chad Kelly going down, that's brutal. Because A, he already had the character questions. That was going to hurt his draft stock in and of itself. Then you add in coming off a blown-out knee. You're talking about a third or fourth round pick now at best. It hurts their team a lot because this is a kid that's got that sort of ability to put a team on his back in bad situations. They don't have another quarterback who can do the things he can do. I think their offense is really going to bog down. I'm disappointed because he's a guy that I like to watch. I think he's got a little bit of natural ability to create when things go south, but I think they could be in serious trouble.
Yeah, people who don't follow Chad Kelly, nephew of Jim Kelly, went to Clemson, had some issues, transferred into Ole Miss, seemed to kind of turn things around, endeared himself to his teammates, was having a good year, up and down, but good. And now, I'm guessing Senior Bowl is out.
Yep.
He's going to have to, maybe be able to throw in his pro day. His draft stock certainly goes in the tank with that. Let's get into the college football games this weekend. Only one battle of top 25 teams playing. That's Baylor and Oklahoma. Two teams that we sort of didn't know what to make of this season. I thought it was, interesting to sort of see them play out. Baylor strong early, Oklahoma stumbles. Now they're kind of meeting in the middle, both top 15 picks. What do you see with this matchup? Anything stand out to you? Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing in this one?
Well, I want to see Seth Russell. I want to see, does he step up in a big game? Does he show me consistency? He's a guy, when I look at him, I see a guy that the physical tools are there. As opposed to Mayfield for Oklahoma, he's sort of that get-it-done guy. He's not a big guy. He doesn't have a big arm, but he just wins. When I look at Seth Russell, I see a guy with the size, the arm strength. He couldn't do it all, but he doesn't do it all consistently. I want to see how he does this week. Can he lead Baylor? That to me is the big question.
Shock Linwood out. Joe Mixon in for Oklahoma. Provides a little boost to the run game and the special teams. I think Oklahoma's got the edge in this one. I know they're close in the rankings, but, I just think about Oklahoma has a little bit of concern in the secondary there. They've had some issues back there. But I feel like Baylor is starting to sort of slide off the cliff. And unless Russell, your guy there, who I like, he's a good football player, but unless he plays at a very, very high level,
Exactly.
I feel like this is almost a turning point for their season. They
Yep.
can sort of slide down at this point.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. I think Baylor's got an uphill battle. I think Oklahoma, the one thing Mayfield's going to bring is they generally play their best against the best opponents. He doesn't put the team in bad spots. I don't love him as a quarterback, but I love his grit. I love his ability to create something when it's not a perfectly scripted play. I think that's going to allow Oklahoma to win.
And if you guys are wondering, I am wearing a South Carolina t-shirt. I did lose a bet last week. My friend Lauren, who lives in South Carolina, is a graduate there. We had a bet going back to August, so I didn't make it last week. That's why I'm wearing the Gamecock shirt, and she is not wearing the Mizzou shirt. Just in case any one or two of you out there are interested.
Question your loyalty.
Exactly right. Who is this guy? Right, exactly. All right, last one we want to hit on here. I asked you to pick a top 25 team in action, and there are a lot of big spreads this week, a lot of big favorites. Is there a top 25 team that should be an upset watch a little bit? Is there a game that you think that maybe goes sideways a little bit?
I really look at Minnesota and Nebraska. Nebraska's ranked in the top 25. Minnesota is not. They're both 4-2. Nebraska's Tommy Armstrong. They don't know if he's going to play. He's got a concussion. They're not sure if he's going to be out there. Mitch Leidner is playing for Minnesota. He's 3 games back from injury. Now, he's not a superstar, but he's a solid guy, good, strong arm, athletic kid. I think Minnesota is going to be able to play well, and I wonder if Nebraska, with Armstrong coming off a concussion, maybe not playing, and the fact that they got demolished this past weekend by Ohio State, I wonder if they're almost going to pack it in and be like, you know what? We don't have our quarterback. We just got crushed. We can't win the Big Ten. And I wonder if they're going to show up a little flat and Minnesota's going to win this. I think Minnesota wins by 7 to 10 points. I think Nebraska's going to be chasing the whole game and won't be able to catch up.
Well, that's an interesting call. A team that had been so good in the third and fourth quarter, especially fourth quarters, just taking it on the chin last week. Another team like Baylor that could maybe go off the cliff a little bit. I'm going to go with USC over Washington out.
Ooh!
I've been a big Washington fan, and I admit this one's a little bit of a stretch, but of the games this weekend, I just feel like there's a chance. Sam Darnold has now come on. They finally bench Max Brown. Darnold has been great. Redshirt freshman has been lighting it up, to the point where we're already kind of thinking, hey, he and Josh Rosen could be outstanding prospects next year. I know Jake Browning is in that discussion too. Wait till 2018 for those guys, but close game last year. It was 17-12 down in USC. This one's up in Seattle. I know they've dominated Pac-12 except for Utah, I guess, but USC's got a little momentum. Ronald Jones running the football. Washington just lost its best pass rusher, Joe Mathis. So I know he's been out a couple of games. I just feel like, even though I would probably say Washington probably has the best team, matching these two teams up, probably better on offense, probably a little better on defense still, probably a little better coaching, I guess. I'm not fully on board with Clay Helton yet, but I could just see a couple of special teams bounces or something crazy happening. I realize I'm stretching a little bit here, but I think that USC has a shot this year.
Well, I don't think USC is going to win, but I agree with you. It's going to be closer than people are talking about. I mean, Washington's been blowing out a lot of people other than Utah when they won a close game. I think this will be a close game. I think in the end, as long as Browning avoids mistakes, Washington will win, but they're not going to win by 21 or 30. This is probably going to be a 7-8 point game, a close game that Washington sort of wins at the end, stays ahead maybe a little bit, but they're not going to blow USC out.
I do like those wide receivers, though. Rice, Pettis. This Washington team, I do feel like people have kind of slept on them.
No doubt.
They get overlooked for A&M in the first playoff rankings and all that stuff, but I think they get a real nice test here, if not a loss from USC. So that's going to wrap it up on the Rec League podcast. This is Russ Landy, who is nodding right now. I am Eric Edholm, who is nodding right now. Usually Chris Martin is with us. He had to travel this week and could not make it, so we will check in next time, and thank you for listening. Appreciate it.